This is E&P Reports, a vodcast from Editor and Publisher Magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcast, digital, and all forms of news publishing.
And hi, and welcome to this special edition of E&P Reports. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine, along with our editor-in-chief, Robin Blinder, and our special guest today, Mike Reed, CEO of Gannett. Mike, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining this. We know this is a busy day for you, but if I may kick off our questions, why was it important for Gannett to file the suit as a standalone plaintiff, and why at this particular moment in time?
Well, the actions that Google has operated under that, have carried the form of not carried the form of, but have been monopolistic business practices, have impacted us for a long period of time. You could argue that maybe the lawsuit should have been filed sooner. There does seem to be some good momentum right now behind this action, given the DOJ's federal lawsuit against Google for the same infractions around the digital ad technology. There's also 34 states that have joined forces in Texas to file class action against Google for the same ad technology but monopolistic practices, and then the EU, you saw that same thing undertaken by their government, last week. So there seemed to be some momentum right now around this, and so the timing. This action that we've taken at Gannett is really driven by, Google's business practices and their impact on our company and on journalism at the end of the day. And so you saw a lot of points in our public filings around this, and we can go over those if you'd like. But this is something that Gannett would have undertaken regardless of any of the other things that are going on. You could argue we waited too long, but you got to do it sometime. As far as us going by ourselves, we just felt like we had the right size, we had the right legal counsel, and felt like we didn't want to wait. We just were ready to go.
Mike, do you think that adding your weight and reputation to some of these other lawsuits, one in particular that HD Media filed earlier, or a couple of years ago, actually, do you think that'll increase the likelihood of an acceptable outcome for all the litigants? Are you hopeful for that, or is this just really about Gannett's business?
Well, I'm really hopeful that we get the right outcome for all, not just all litigants, but for the journalism industry, right?
Absolutely.
The journalism industry has really survived for 200 years on selling advertising. Consumers want content. They want local news, national news. Content producers like ourselves have produced that news for a couple hundred years and have built a business model around advertising. And in the digital arena, now that 90% of consumers read their news in a digital platform, you would think digital advertising, which has exploded to a $200 billion industry, would have benefited publishers who produce the content, given consumers are coming to them to digest the content, to engage with the content. But Google has inserted themselves in the middle, and they control every aspect of the digital advertising marketplace, from ad placement to the ad exchanges to pricing. And so it's odd for the middleman in this equation to make all the money. So our hope is that we get the right outcome for the entire industry, and that journalism can survive for the next 100 years because we get a level playing field around the digital advertising marketplace.
Mike, this suit obviously has a dollar figure attached to it. How are you calculating or estimating these damages to your ad revenue? And can you give us the figure and how you arrived at it? Can you tell us what you're really looking for here? What's the number?
We didn't put a specific number out, and we did indicate in the materials we published that there's a significant amount more we're going to learn in discovery based on the lawsuit. But we think our damages are well north of $1 billion just to start. But I can't tell you exactly how much, and that number will hopefully grow through discovery. But U.S. antitrust law also provides for automatic trebling, which adds maybe 3 times. So we think the number is substantial. We think it's big. We think it's fair. But we're going to learn a lot more in the coming months on and can be a little more precise.
I'm curious, Mike. Why not name any of the other platforms like Meta? I know they've backed down quite a bit, and I know Google's the 800-pound gorilla, but
well, this Robin, this lawsuit is not around content and the theft of that content, violation of copyright laws, which is where the other tech platforms have been more aggressive in lifting our content and violating any copyright protection laws. This is specifically related to advertising in the ad tech platform that Google has built, and Google specifically controls every single part of the process. So basically about 90% of the advertising comes through Google in some particular way. 60% of our advertisers come through Google, but they control every aspect of it, from the placement of the ad, digital ad, to the advertising technology that's in the middle, the ad exchange in the middle. They understand pricing before anybody else in the marketplace understands pricing, so they have an unfair competitive advantage, and that's allowed them to depress prices for publishers like us, and for them to make all the money. And so this is, Robin, this is more specifically around Google's actions to dominate the ad tech and the digital advertising marketplace versus content that all the tech platforms have benefited from through lifting it from us. And our goal there is broader, with regard to the tech platforms, and the industry association is pushing hard to get the JCPA into legislation, which will help a lot. But that's a separate issue to copyright infringement from this particular issue.
Do you, just to follow up on that, do you feel that, or this may be jumping ahead, is there a possibility that Gannett has the opportunity at some point to kind of be that ad tech middle person for the news publishing industry? I mean, you definitely have the size.
I'd say what we would love to accomplish with this is to have a level playing field for all publishers and anybody in digital advertising marketplace, to have a fair and competitive marketplace. We're not looking to take over as the dominant player there. We're just looking for a fair marketplace that we think will benefit all publishers.
Right.
Mike, Gannett is involved in many associations. You have been to conventions. You're on the board of some, and the Google News Initiative is thrown a lot of cash our way over the past couple of years. I say our way, I mean all news publishing and broadcast, somewhere north of $600-700 million. Is that one of the reasons why, that in your opinion, that this is the first time you've ever decided to ask ask Google to cease its anti-competitive advertising behaviors? I mean, have you ever reached out before, or was it because of all this industry support that you haven't done this until now?
No, I don't think one has to do with the other. The monopolistic practices that are underway at Google have been underway for a long period of time, and we reached a breaking point with how much it's depressed our business and how much it's depressed our industry. And The fact that 20% of the newspapers in this country have closed over the last 15 years, and 50% of the journalism workforce has been downsized over the last 15 years. We just reached a point where it has to stop, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with the other things. And
yes, it was time.
And it was just time, because we can't incur any more losses, and we need to stop the current practices which benefit only one person, and that's Google, and nobody else. And Google doesn't employ the journalists.
Last question, because I know we only got 15 minutes of your valuable time, and we appreciate you giving it to E&P today. I want you to put on your Karnak the Great hat, or take out your crystal ball, Mike. You are the CEO of the largest news publishing organization in North America. Assuming now that antitrust legislation or suits in some way, shape, form, or size comes through, assuming federal legislation or on a state level, we get the incentives for the publishers who craft local news, or we get some compensation to the advertisers to support it. Mr. Reed, do you see a future for robust, sustainable local journalism in North America?
I do. I'd say 1,000% I see that.
Can you put a little bit more meat on the bone, sir, for the thousands of people listening to this today? Are you Pollyanna?
I see a robust future for journalism, for local news, regional news, national news. Look, consumers still engage with news every single day. We have 150 million uniques to our news platform here in the US every month. So there's engagement. Consumers want news. We spend all the money creating the news, and Google makes all the money on the advertising side on the back of our news. That's what needs to change. And our news gets lifted, infringement on copyright, and others make money off our news on their platform and don't pay us fair use for it. So we do need to get these things corrected, through fair playing fields and fair compensation. And I think we will. And when we do, I think local, regional, and national news will thrive. And you'll see the number of journalists in this country going up versus going down.
Mr. Reed, thank you so much for your valuable time. On behalf of Robin, myself, E&P, and our readers, thanks again.
Thank you. Great to talk to you guys.